In 1981, the RCMP wrote a secret memo warning that Alberta Premier Peter Lougheed could potentially lead Western Canada out of Confederation. The memo came from the RCMP's counter-terrorism unit and was later released through access to information, partly censored and first reported by Blacklock's reporter. The RCMP said Western separatism did not yet have a dynamic leader, but argued it could succeed if one emerged. They identified Lougheed as that possible leader. Quote, an individual who is considered a potential leader is the Premier of Alberta, Peter Lougheed, the memo said. The Mounties noted that Lougheed had publicly rejected separatism and described himself as a Canadian first. But they added that his actions in oil pricing negotiations during the National Energy Program suggested, quote, he harbors latent thoughts of independence. So they did a terrorism assessment? The memo said Western separatism lacked a René Lévesque type figure, but warned that if Lougheed or someone similar began advocating for independence, it could become a reality. The RCMP linked rising Western alienation to long-standing grievances, discriminatory freight rates between East and West, feelings of political alienation from Ottawa, exploitation of Western natural resources for Eastern industry, and the belief that the West received less from Ottawa than it contributed. Honestly, nothing has changed. The memo also pointed to the Parti Québécois victory in 1976 as proof that a well-organized and well-funded party could potentially lead a province out of Confederation. But they didn't. However, I think we just might. Groups named in the document included the Alberta Farmers Union, Canada West Federation, Saskatchewan Taxpayers Association, and the Western Canada Concept, an independence party that elected one MLA in Alberta in 1982. In Olds, the RCMP wrote that separatist activity increased after the 1979 federal election, driven by feelings of political alienation from Ottawa and, of course, that age-old exploitation by Eastern Canada. The memo concluded that Alberta was the most likely province to agitate for separation. Still is. The memo read that indications are that Western alienation could grow stronger, especially in Alberta. Yeah, I know. Footnotes attached to the memo showed RCMP monitoring of Western independence movements dated back to 1946 with the founding of the Western Canada Federation in Saskatoon by a local tax protester. The RCMP's assessment was that Western discontent was long-standing, still is, organized, getting better, and centered most strongly in Alberta. Some things never change, and that without a leader like Lougheed, it had stalled but not disappeared. However, now the movement is larger than ever. It's totally grassroots, outside of party infrastructure. There are no official spokespeople, and I think closer to leading Alberta out of Confederation than ever before. So maybe the RCMP were wrong. They should not have feared one man, but rather many. Maybe the majority of people in Alberta. Joining the show tonight to discuss all this and more is convoy lawyer and separatist influencer Keith Wilson. Up after the break.